Welcome to the future of space. I'm your host, Daniel Fox. Today we have a special guest, Anousheh Ansari. She's the CEO of XPRIZE, the world's leader in designing and operating incentive competitions to solve humanity's grand challenges. Ansari sponsored the first XPRIZE, the 10 million Ansari XPRIZE, igniting a new era for commercial spaceflight. She captured international headlines by becoming the first female private space explorer and the first astronaut of Iranian descent. Her memoir, My Dream of Stars, shares her life story of as inspiration for young women around the world. Anousheh, welcome to the future space.
Great to be here with you on Future of Space.
First of all, huge thank you on behalf, I think, of everybody that I can think of for creating the X Prize and being such um, a leader in shaping the future of humankind and creating so much opportunities for innovation for the good of humanity. So a big thank you.
Oh, thank you. I'm just one of many people who are on the X Prize team and every day show up with all of their heart and all of their effort to just move the needle a little bit. And we need that hopefulness and that drive today.
Absolutely, I agree with you. Like I always say when people go, "Thank you," I'm like, you know what? I'm just a tree standing up. There's like roots everywhere that are helping me because if it wasn't for them, I would be falling and gone forever. So absolutely, Anusha, can you give me? I mean, you've been to space, but even without going to space, what we have above our heads and where we're going represents so many things to so many people. Can you describe and tell us three words to describe space?
Three words. I would say vast, mysterious, and dark because I usually look at the night sky, so I see it all black with these beautiful stars in it.
And why should we go to space? Beside, I mean, yes, we can now, and we've been going. There's obviously a lot of benefits on the science and technology aspect of it, but what is the human story, the life story, the nature story of going to space?
So I think starting with the human side of it, and perhaps I can use the sample of one, N of one, to maybe project what most people who want to go to space feel like. It's a journey of exploration. It's a journey of understanding. For me, going to space was a way to really understand, who I am, who we are, why are we here, why humans live on this planet, where is this planet compared, in contrast to the rest of this universe, why here, why not someplace else, what else is out there, how this whole universe started. So all the questions that I think a lot of people end up asking themselves. And to me, I always looked up at space to find the answers. So I think it's in search of answer exploration to find ourselves and our place in the universe. And I think, outside of that sense of really understanding exploration and awareness, um, our future depends on us going to space because we live on a limited resource planet. It's a very unique planet in our solar system, and it's a very difficult thing to replicate on Mars, Moon, anywhere else. So our best bet is to try to keep it as beautiful and livable as it is today. And in order to do that, we need to learn how to best utilize resources in space to better understand our world and better protect our world and bring resources that helps us keep our planet habitable and have a sustainable way for human beings to continue living on this planet.
I think a lot of people think that us going into outer space is abandoning Earth at the expense of Earth. But this idea of always reaching out or leaving the home's nest, I mean, is that's how life works. I mean, even if you take a pack of wolves, it will grow to a certain point, and then it gets to a stage where one couple needs to go and find new pasture for this. I mean, obviously, because not everyone can live under the same roof. The same reason that if you have children and then grandchildren and great, they can't live all under one roof. And when they leave the house, is not to abandon the house, is really at the benefit of supporting through resources and increasing the knowledge, the home and the parents that are leaving behind. um, and it's obviously, once we're able to get all the resources that we need for the planet Earth, then it's going to be much better. Whether, I mean, it's no question that mining an asteroid or the moon instead of the Amazon, it's not a debate. Um, Anush, Anusha, can you share with us the? I mean, you said that space has always been an attraction for you. Um, but tell us a little bit of the journey of your background and all the way up to the International Space Station. What was your childhood like, and the opportunities that were presented for you?
Sure. So, as I mentioned, I fell in love with space and the night sky specifically at a very young age. For me, the night skies and using my imagination to go out there and be in space was a refuge from the chaos that was around me. I was born in Iran, I grew up in Iran, and I was there during the revolution, during the war, and whether it was family chaos or country chaos, there was one place I could go and find peace and quiet, and a world that I was in control of. So I would imagine going to other planets. I had read, and one of my favorite books is The Petit Prince, the Little Prince, and I wanted to, have my planet out there. Even though he was lonely, but he had his flowers that kept him company. And I just developed this fascination with going out there and discovering other lives, other places, and perhaps something that was more peaceful, more harmonious than what was surrounding me. So that's how my love of space started. It drew me to math and sciences and physics and astronomy, and wanting to study that. And later on, when I was 16, I had a chance to come to the United States. I also loved science fiction, so I read every science fiction book, watched every science fiction series on TV, and I was a big Star Trek fan. So my ideal world, as a child, I thought I'll grow up and there will be a Starfleet Academy, and I would be able to become a Starfleet officer and travel the galaxies. And um, you know, when I came to US, and as I grew older, I realized that things don't move as fast as in the movies. So not much happened since I was a child, and learning about the Apollo missions to when I was an adult and wanting to go to space. And so my path to space was very unlikely to happen through the traditional means. Became an engineer, an entrepreneur, a tech entrepreneur, and you know, for most people, when they make that type of a turn, a switch, they don't really go back or look back to their childhood dreams. But for me, I didn't leave my childhood dream behind. I carried it with me. It was with me every step of the way in my career. And I had reminders of it all around me, and eventually ended up, once we successfully, with my co-founders, sold our company, uh, I had an opportunity to try to pursue my passion, and that's how I got involved with XPRIZE Foundation, and how I was able to go to space. It was a alignment of all the stars, because at that time, Peter Diamandis, who was the founder of XPRIZE Foundation, had decided to launch a competition because he was inspired by the story of Charles Lindbergh flying to win a prize, and that's how the aviation industry started. So he wanted to do the same for space and start the whole commercial space, marketplace, and reduce the cost of access to space so everyone can go to space, do business in space. And that aligned perfectly well with my thinking and as an entrepreneur, and also the timing was perfect. So after hearing a lot of no's from the wealthiest people in the world and biggest corporations in the world, he found me and told me about the idea, and immediately I loved it. I thought that instead of paying someone up front, forming a team and having one team work on your problem, with a prize, you can have the whole world work on your problem and only pay when they actually built your solution and showed you that it works. So it was perfectly, understandable to me why you would do a prize. And as an entrepreneur, I thought it's a brilliant idea. So my family and I became the title sponsors of the first competition, which took about 10 years to be won. But along the way, changed policy, um, created a lot of excitement and awareness about possibility of people building their own rockets and going to space. And eventually a team from Mojave Scale Composite won the prize out of the 26 teams competing. And their design was purchased by Richard Branson, became Virgin Galactic, and Virgin Galactic went public in 2019, and for billions of dollars. So a $10 million prize brought in $100 million of investment in an area no one was investing, and then a $100 billion marketplace was created because of it. And to me, that's amazing, and it's one of the greatest joy of my life to know that I was part of it and played a small part in it.
So earlier you mentioned how going to space, one of the goals was to answer some of the questions about you. Um, Obviously, the Anoush that started the X Prize. Also, I'm pretty. You found some answers about you. Tell us about the insights that you got from about yourself about going to space.
Of course. So I got the opportunity to fly to International Space Station in 2006, about a couple of years after the X Prize was won, the Ansari X Prize was won. And the journey, I had to train about 9 months in Star City and before flying. So the entire journey, which included the training, was really transformational for me. But being space, of course, was the highlight of it. The it helped me focus more than anything else, and find myself. It I describe it to people. It's like you're going through life with these dirty glasses with all these fingerprints on it, and everything you see is through this fog almost. And when you go to space, it's like someone cleared the glasses and everything became real focus for you. So to me, this whole journey helped me see, and not just see with my eyes, but internalize, uh, you know, how truly our world is unique, fragile, and small in comparison to the entire universe. And then you put me as one of the 7 billion people on this planet, and how small I am and my life is. So it really humbles you, and empowers you at the same time, because at the same rate that you are shrinking, the entire world is shrinking when you go to space. So all the problems shrink with it, and you feel like, problems are not that difficult to solve. And having been part of the XPRIZE family, I've always practiced hopefulness, and approaching problems as and challenges as opportunities for us to innovate and solve them. And it really, you know, this journey to space help help put perspective on my life and the world, and what's important and what is a priority for me. So it helped me decide what are the things I want to focus my energy and attention on when I return back from the space station.
How much of a challenge was it for your own community, your own family, to accept someone like you to go to space? I mean, just even a normal person to say like, I'm gonna spend a lot of money to go up as a private, as a private person. There are risks involved. I mean, I know that my even as a sort of wilderness explorer, my mom would be not really she would be happy, but with a huge risk, and behind the head. How was it from your own community? Encouraging or supporting or not?
Like everything else, you get both sides of the coin. But my family, everyone was very supportive, because they had heard me talk about going to space since I was 6 years old. So to them, it was no surprise that when I had the opportunity, I had to seize it. Of course, my mom was really worried about me, and I remember when she was in Kazakhstan for my launch, she had to take tranquilizers because she was just so worried. She couldn't stop crying. But even though she was worried, she never told me you shouldn't go, because she just knew that this is something I had to do. It's interestingly enough, while I was on space station and she was, anxious for my return, and crying when she found a drawing I did when I was a child, where I had drawn a rocket ship going to space, and that was my rocket ship taking me to space. And when she saw that, she found it, which was a miracle, that she found something from long ago from Iran, somehow attached to another paper, and she brought it with her to US. Um, and she's like, okay, this is a sign. She knew what she was gonna do, and she did it. So it gave her comfort a little bit. But it's hard on every family. Every astronaut family would tell you that going to space is dangerous. It's very difficult. Our community, the Iranian community, was very supportive. Also, I received so many beautiful messages of support from everyone, and I especially, I mean, I received a lot of encouraging word from women across the world. A lot of Iranian women, of course, a lot of women from Middle East, from my region, and women across the world, because still to this day, you know, women have not achieved the status to be known that yes, women can do anything they want to, and our gender doesn't, you know, handicap us in doing things. So I think it sent that positive message that people were looking for. Um, a lot of people criticize me for spending money on going to space. I spend money on a lot of other philanthropic effort. People go buy expensive jewelry, or they buy $50 million homes, and no one criticizes them, because I guess it's normal. I did something that's not normal. I don't do those other things, but this was my passion. It was my life journey. So And I had said that I would go to space even if it was a one-way ticket. I was willing to pay with my life. So I didn't think writing a check was more expensive than my life. So I think many people understand that, and some don't, and it's okay.
Yeah, I think it's not the purpose to convince everyone, but at least to convince the ones who are seeking for that inspiration. Um, you realize that when you work with children, what children end up becoming as they seek a career is not always the interest that they start with, but it's the ones along the way that help or opens door. And if you can go back and try to make the transition between their interest and the actualization of that interest as friction free as possible, so that they find themselves into a place where they really wanted to be, as opposed to, yeah, I took that because I didn't have a choice, so someone made it easier. And so it's so important to have inspirational figures that represents obviously a broad range of backgrounds and what so that people can identify into that. And it's, you earlier today, I was talking to Dr. Sign Proctor, another person who went up to space with Inspiration 4. She was telling me, and maybe you can tell me also, one of the things that surprised her the most when she was in orbit was the brightness and the light coming from the Earth. In fact, she calls it the Earth light. Was that a surprise for you also?
It wasn't the brightness. It was, for me, it manifested differently. So I remember clearly when I was still in the capsule, in the Soyuz capsule, and when I saw Earth for the first time, I felt this warmth of almost this energy of life. It was alive, and perhaps it's because the background is so dark that when you see this amazing, colorful, rotating ball suspended in this blackness, it feels alive to you. But it was this warmth and energy of life that I felt from it. And I was in the capsule, so I knew I cannot feel heat. So it wasn't that I was feeling heat, but it was just the sense of warmth and energy that I felt, and it's absolutely beautiful. So, as you're orbiting, and as the sun and the Earth is going around the sun, and you're orbiting the Earth, you basically see a sunrise and a sunset every 90 minutes, and when the sun is sort of shining on Earth, you can see it, and then as it starts moving away, and we experience it as night, it becomes dark, it disappears. So you can see a halo, like a brown halo of it. But it's the most amazing, beautiful scenery that you can ever imagine.
I can only imagine, and I cannot wait to experience it. And that it's really the exercise of traveling or going to other places, and to create perspective and context. Obviously, if you were born in a village and you go up in the mountain and you look back, now you see your village in context with the surrounding. You can feel the geography of your location. When you get into a plane and you start to look down, well, you see the perspective from above, and it's a total different understanding of life. So just stepping out into orbit, or even going to the moon or going to space, and understanding the context and the perspective of the planet within the blackness of the universe, really creates a different shift, a cognitive shift, um, and your relationship with the planet. Because it's really hard when you're on the ground to really grasp the physicality or the reality of the scarcity of life in the universe, because it's like the whole, when the fish that swim in the water, they don't really understand the water around them, but it's only when you jump out of the water you get to experience it. But going to space, the more people will experience that physical moment will obviously change their lives and make and the more people, the more ambassadors to this story of preciousness and stewards to the planet that we must be.
I truly believe that it is such a, as I said, transformational experience that it shifts the way you view the world. And I've said, ever since I came back from space, I've said that we need to send world leaders, policymakers to space because they would differently make different decisions once they see our world and our planet. Because all these things that are abstract talks and ideas and concepts to them, it becomes real when you're in space. When you see that very, very, very thin blue line around our planet, which is our atmosphere, and is the only reason we're all alive. That's the only reason we're alive here, and we, there are no humans on Mars or on the moon. It's a very important realization and acknowledgement, and then you understand that we can't just mess around with this, and there's nothing like it around. You look and you see this vast empty blackness around our planet, and you're like, we better take care of it for a long, long time.
Absolutely. There is I spend a lot of time in the environment community, obviously for the relationship that I have with nature and the outdoor community. There's there's a narrative that is pretty predominant that for me has almost led me to seek or wanting to change the narrative that the human species is almost like a cancer on the planet. It's we're how there's a lot of guilt, that there's a lot of shame into what we do. You spent a lot of time with innovative people, get to see I think the best of humanity. What would be the overall um, your idea of the human species? Is life just really a complicated um, reality? We need to break the eggs. We have life inherently wants to push the boundaries, and the only difference between an innovation and a mistake is really the hindsight. But the path to that is usually the same. Would you say that the human species is worse than nature, or that's just the nature of evolution?
It's a very interesting question. I I believe that everything has to be balanced. There's no pure good or pure bad. Everything has to reach an equilibrium point and balance. Fortunately for nature, nature is much stronger than human beings. So if we want to fight against nature, we're going to lose. I have no doubt. Because our planet will be here. We may not live on it, but our planet will not go anywhere. We can't, you know, destroy the planet altogether. We will destroy the parts of the planet that is important to us to be alive. So I think we will lose that battle. But in terms of just human nature, I would say I think we have both good and bad in us. We One thing that has happened, and I don't, maybe it's part of our psyche. It's our old brain. It's our lizard brain that drive us to the point that we're never satisfied. So we want more and more and more. It's like more is better, and this hunger, this thirst for more, is what makes us unhappy. Just forget about the environment, makes us unhappy, and then it causes stress and destruction around us in our society, in our nature, in our environment. And that is the place that we need to find balance in our own life and in our own head as to how much is enough, what's enough for me to live a life that makes me happy. And if we can reach that point, not only we will be happy, the whole world and nature will be happy with us. And that is humanity's biggest challenge, I think, to find the balance where they will be happy and not associate more with happiness. Even though time after time it's proven to each individual that more doesn't give you happiness, and the studies have been done on it, still we have not learned how to practice it. And I think that would be the ultimate win for humanity to get to that point.
I think that personally, the human species is still a very young species in terms of evolution, and we're like the arrogant teenager who believes the world is black and white and needs to surround himself with material. And as we get older, we start to realize that the richness of life is not necessarily in the possessions, but more into relationships, and also after experiencing pain and suffering and humility and empathy. Those are all the things that comes with time, and unfortunately going through transformation and hardships is what defines how we move forward. um, I think that we often talk about the metaphor of the butterfly. We can all become our own version of the butterfly, but what we forget in the story is how it becomes a butterfly. Obviously, it starts as a caterpillar, but then it goes and isolates itself and builds a cocoon, and then within that cocoon, it will literally become goo and like undo itself, so that it can transforms into the butterfly. And that is the process as an individual, but also as a cultural and as a society. That that process of transformation is always painful, because we have to reassess how we choose to move forward. We have to look at our values, look at our mistakes, not necessarily blame the past, because I think that the past is always trying to do what is right, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't work. And whatever we do today would also create unintended consequences that we didn't see. And I'm pretty sure that no one wants to be blamed today for a future that when we're trying to do the right thing. um, what is so Inzari, the X Prize is really involved, and it's trying to do with climate change and space, obviously. What other area of innovation is it involved into? Is it involved in biotech and some other groundbreaking mobility?
Sure. Just also maybe carrying from your past question, our vision of the XPRIZE vision is to build a hopeful, abundant future for all. And when we talk about abundance, the reason we talk about abundance is that today people live, and their actions is it comes from a place of scarcity. And when you feel that things are scarce, then you want to grab more. And if there is a world of abundance, and since I love Star Trek, I call it the Star Trek world, where you have a replicator, anything you want, it's there. You just can create it and then recycle it, hopefully. So if you know you can have anything, then you're not constantly in fight to have more. And we want to create that opportunity, that world of abundance for everyone. And for us, our focus is in five areas, in 7 areas, in 7 domains we look at to build this world of abundance. One is in climate and energy. We look at all the things needed to create a future of abundant energy and a sustainable climate for human beings. The other one is biodiversity and conservation. Education and society is the third one. Health is another important domain work that we do. Food waste water is another one. And deep tech, quantum, you know, AI, blockchain, all these new technologies that are advancing humanity. And the one that it's the sort of what started XPRIZE is space and exploration. So for us, exploration goes to exploring on our planet, off planet, and also exploring, the boundary of human consciousness. So those are the areas we concentrate our work. We've launched close to $300 million worth of prizes over the past 26 years. We've been around for 26 years, and very successfully demonstrated how competitions work. And our vision is to build this future with the world together, because we use XPRIZE to drive innovation in areas where there is no awareness or there is lack of investment from the public or private sector, and it requires sort of a jump start. And for us, the competition is a huge jump start because it shines a light on the problem, it defines the problem and how solutions should solve the problem. It invites the world to solve it, and it brings investors and money to the place. So it really kickstarts a whole new marketplace, or expands a marketplace. In So that is where XPRIZE plays a role. But ultimately, you need these solutions to get to market. You need policy. So we help through our work around the competitions. We try to establish these pathways to the future that describes the innovations and breakthroughs that are needed, but also how we need new policies, behavior change, collaboration. And that's why we have many partnerships and many collaborative efforts to really build a movement toward this future.
You mentioned abundance. Often, when I think of abundance, I see the challenge of creating value. When you have a lot of something, you lose the value of it. Or if you got something almost um, too too quick, you lose the perspective of the how complicated it is to get to your place. We see that with food. People don't understand, have forgotten the how the process the food gets to their plate because now it's so convenient everywhere. How do you nurture value within as you create a world of abundance?
It's a great question. So, as I was describing it to us, abundance doesn't mean a lot of something. It means everything is available for everyone. And when you do that, then you also need to answer the question, well, there is not enough of everything in this world for everyone. So that's where the work comes in to create, whether it's through technology and innovation, to replace things with sustainable solutions, with sustainable materials, with circular economy where things get to be circulated and reused. And the biggest problem we have in this world is inequity, where access to a lot of things is not there. So you can argue today some people have a world of abundance, but many people don't. So our goal is to really make sure everything that we're talking about, and we help the innovative solutions that we help come to market, that it is affordable and accessible to all. And I think that almost is embedded in this creation of world of abundance. And when we design our competitions, when we talk to our community, when we try to define what type of solutions we're looking for in a competition, the elements of pricing, accessibility, and sustainability are core. They're just non negotiable. They're first, and then the innovation comes second. Because if we innovate in a way that is not sustainable, affordable, and accessible, then we actually are moving away from our target. So we definitely incorporate that into everything we try to create or innovate.
I think it's one of the um, aspects of the past, I would say 15 to 20 years, has been missing in the story of how to move forward in the future is that growth is an inherent reality of life. Everything grows. I mean, whether it's our cells or the planet has an arc, it lives, even the universe. And we cannot tell people that we have to stop growing. I think what we have to tell people is that there are different models of growth, and obviously there's the Japanese Yutori model of growth. Elizabeth Raworth with her donut economic model and this circular economic model, but we have to figure out this. It's almost like a little constantly negotiating certain. You have pillars that are priorities that are important, and you rise them up. Pretty much at the same time, as opposed to just this linear kind of growth at the expense of everything, where you might go really fast, but it's at the expense of too many other, I guess, losers. But being able to grow and rising a lot of all the, I guess, the family together is what's important, because growth is, you're never going to be able to stop growth, and as we go to space it's even at a different level of growth.
True, true, true. The and I think to me, growth represents movement, and anything that is alive needs to move, and I think growth doesn't mean just increasing something linearly or exponentially. It also means moving in different direction. You can move laterally. So, in terms of humanity, we're growing. Our population is growing. Our understanding of the world is growing. Information is growing. Everything's growing, and sometimes faster than we can even understand it or comprehend it or incorporate it. But it's important for us to be able to, again, find sustainable ways to grow. One of our current competitions, for example, is Feed the Next Billion, because we know our population is growing. The Fortunately, the wealth of a lot of people is growing, so the need for protein is growing for people who eat protein, and the way we supply protein is not sustainable. It's not good for our planet. It's not humane for the animals. So this competition is basically focused on creating alternatives through growing meat from stem cell, for example, and cell agriculture, or plant-based, even if it doesn't have to be an animal cell. So to create something that would replace it, would look, taste, cook like a fillet of fish or a breast of chicken, and satisfy all the needs, but without the environmental consequences. So there are ways for us to grow and be sustainable at the same time through innovation.
Does the XPRIZE so the XPRIZE offers opportunities, competition for people that are ready to get into the experience, innovation aspect. When it comes to education and the younger people, what is XPRIZE actions right now towards the younger generation and education?
Um, Education, learning in general, I think it's and we combine that with what we call future of work as well. It's a very interesting area, and I think an area where not a lot of people, I mean, in general, everyone talks about education and, you know, virtual education, digital education, and all that, and that's great. That's now, it's happening now. But I think the conversation that needs to take place is, at the rate things are changing, at the rate our information is changing, knowledge is changing, uh, it's not sustainable for us to utilize our traditional method of teaching, going to college for 4 years to learn something that by the time you graduate is probably not useful to you at all. So I think there's a fundamental shift that has to happen in the way we learn. I think as human beings, we need to end up in a sort of a continuous learning cycle, because if I don't continue reading and updating my knowledge base, I'll be so out of date within just less than a year, a few months. And I think the vastness of the information we have has also increased. So it becomes difficult. So combination of artificial intelligence and computing helping us with knowledge, our knowledge, and access to knowledge and gaining knowledge is one big part of it. At the same time, as our population grows and automation and all these new technologies change the way we live and replaces a lot of jobs. And I'm not just talking about truck drivers because we have autonomous trucks. I'm talking about high skilled jobs, radiologists, doctors. We need to think about, today we define ourselves pretty much with our work and what we do. When you meet someone new, the first thing you ask them, so what do you do? So that's how a relationship starts. And I think things will be different in the future. People may not have full time jobs, people may not have permanent jobs, people may not have a career like that. So our society will transform completely. So our thinking about work and job and our relationship to it and the relationship to the society has to shift. And I don't think any government or policymaker is talking about these issues. And these are not something that you flip a switch and things are okay. We need to start having conversations now about what happens when we have a lot of machines that will do things that people don't want to do. How do we address that? How do we, and that has been accelerated because of COVID and the fact that people are getting to a point that some of them, they don't want to work in full time jobs, and there's a shortage, and people are automating faster than ever. So that rate of getting to the place I was describing is accelerating. So some of these things have to take place, and that's some of the area that the XPRIZE is looking into and working on.
There's so many great things happening, and I know that there's some real challenges that we have to address. Obviously, the war is one of them. But I've always found that the humanity rises in those moments. Some of the best of humanity comes in sometimes in the worst of times. And when things go too well, we take things for granted, and then we start to sit back, and then we become too arrogant. So we have population, we have organizations like yours that are creating opportunities, and we have more incredible minds that are coming together to find solution. And I think it's just this exponential growth of innovation and knowledge that's just going to create and shape a future that is going to be not without challenges, but I think truly inspiring and fascinating. Now, I want to be mindful of your time, Anousheh. If people want to learn more about all the various places that they can apply or learn more about XPRIZE, I guess they go on the website, correct?
Yes, that's the best place. XPRIZE, XPRIZE.org. And you can explore what are some of our active competitions. Sign up for our newsletter so we can tell you what's happening. You can follow us on all the social media. But more importantly, sign up so if you want to solve any of our problems when there's a new competition launch, you will be the first to know, and then you can form your team and actually take an active role in building that future of abundance for all.
This is how competition should be done. Competition deserves a place, and obviously, this is the good thing about a competition. And your book is on sale pretty much everywhere you can find book. So we'll put the links, all the links that people need. We'll put them in the description and the post. There's no excuses for people to come and find out more about XPRIZE. Anousheh, it was such a pleasure. Thank you so much for taking the time and for sharing your history, your story, and all the great work that you do. Thank you.
Thank you, Daniel. Thank you for having me, and I enjoyed the conversation.
Just the only thing missing is a glass of wine, but we'll make sure
Exactly.
the
Next time.
next time there's a glass of wine on the table.
Sounds good. We'll do it in person next time.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.